Every year at the end of the year, I spend some time planning out my content for the next year. And a master content calendar is really helpful for this. So a couple of weeks ago, I set out to create a calendar which had all of my newsletters, broadcast emails, blog posts, and video scripts on one calendar view. Since I have collaborators on many of these projects and they already exist in Notion, I figured it'd be easiest to build it there. The problem? It's impossible to combine all these separate calendars into one master calendar without completely blowing things up and moving everything into a single database. So I moved it all into Obsidian instead. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I created this master content calendar view using bases and a couple of additional community plugins. But I have to admit, this is not what I set out to build. This entire project actually started with what I thought would be a very straightforward and simple task: make a master content calendar in Notion. And I started there because that's where a lot of my collaborative content projects already live, and I used it for years to manage content calendars when I worked with the Blanc Media team previously. I figured I knew exactly what I was getting myself into. But I have several databases currently in Notion, and they're all shared with different people, and I needed a way to bring them all together. The YouTube calendar database is shared with my video editor. The Bookworm and Focus podcast databases are shared with my co-hosts, and I also have a general content calendar that I use for newsletters before I move those writing projects into Obsidian. But the one thing I absolutely did not want to do, the deal breaker, was to create a new database, move everything over, and then have everyone rejoin. So I tried to create a calendar view in Notion that pulled together all these databases. As it turns out, you just cannot do this, and after beating my head against the wall for an hour or two, ChatGPT and I both came to the same conclusion: this just is not possible in Notion currently. So that was frustrating, but then I realized that I already know how to build this in Obsidian using bases. The only thing I really needed to figure out was how to create that calendar view. And since I manage the actual writing part of all my creative projects in Obsidian anyway, I decided I may as well try to create it there. So here's how I put this together. First, I have all my writing projects in separate folders based on type. So all the blog posts are in the articles folder, broadcast emails are in the emails folder, the newsletters are in the newsletters folder, and scripts for videos like this one are in the video scripts folder. I have another video here where I walk through how I built Kanban boards to manage these writing projects by status, which is organized by the value of the status property in those notes. I also have a date property, which indicates the publish date, and for my video scripts, I already had a Notion property where I pasted the link to the video page where my editor and I go back and forth on title and thumbnail ideas. So everything was basically there to build a simple bases view that used these 4 folders as a filter. And then I knew if I could figure out the calendar view, the date property could be used to display those notes on the calendar. So let me show you how I built this step by step. So first I created a new base with a simple filter for all views where any of the following are true. Folder is articles, folder is emails, folder is newsletters, or folder is video scripts. So that gave me the base, but I still needed a way to create a calendar view. So fortunately, I came across a plugin called Obsidian Calendar Bases that does exactly this. Now it's technically a beta plugin. It's not available in the community plugins directory. So you do need to install it via Brat if you want to use it. Now to do this, you need to install and enable the Brat plugin from the community plugins directory first. Then go to the Brat settings and add the URL for the Obsidian Calendar Bases plugin here. The link to both of these plugins can be found in the description below this video. This also needs the full calendar community plugin installed to show things properly on the calendar view. So you'll need to install and enable that plugin as well from the community plugins directory. Now, once you have this set up, you can go into your base, go to the configure view settings, and select the calendar layout. You probably won't see anything at first because the date property isn't set yet. So next, click on date properties and select the property you want to use for the start date. In my case, this is the date property. You can also configure an end date if you want, but it's not necessary, and I like to keep things simple, so I don't actually use this one. The other option here is called calendar options, but the only thing you can do here is change the day that the week starts on. So once you have this configured, the end result is a monthly calendar view for your base that displays items based on the date property that you set in the view settings. So after only about 10 minutes, I was able to create a master content calendar view that shows all my newsletters, articles, emails, and YouTube videos on the same calendar. So far, so good. But all these notes look basically the same. Now, in a perfect world, I would be able to choose different colors for the different types of events here, like you can in full calendar. But that requires some weird file name formatting that I don't like, so I created a different way of visualizing what type of note each of these cards represents. And what I did was create another property in all my notes called platform that uses emoji to denote where this note will eventually get published. The mailbox emoji represents an email that I'll send via my email service provider, which is Kit. The globe emoji represents a blog post that will appear on my website at practicalpkm.com. And the play button emoji represents a video script for a YouTube video like this one. So I added these to my notes in a property that I called platform, and then I enabled that platform property in the bases view. This added the emoji in the line below the note title on the cards, giving me a minimalist visual way to tell what platform the content would actually be published to. So this gave me my master content calendar. That's really what I was after. But I also ended up creating separate calendars for the different ways that I wanted to visualize my creative projects. I can slice and dice this a lot of different ways. So for example, I built one that shows just my YouTube video projects. And I did this by creating a new calendar view with the same settings, but added an additional filter just for this view that limits the location to just the video scripts folder. I have another view that shows me all the blog posts I'm going to publish on my website, but because those projects could be in either the articles or newsletters folders, I created a filter for this view that looks for notes where the platform property contains that globe emoji. I have another view that shows me all the emails that I need to send, but because these could be newsletters or broadcast emails, they could be in either the newsletters or emails folders. So this filter also shows the file tags so I know what kind of email this is, and those tags are visible in the calendar view as well. And I have one other similar view which lets me see just the newsletters that I need to write, which has an additional filter that looks for the newsletter tag and removes the tag's property from the view entirely. So now I have a single base for all my content, and I have several different views that I can use for content planning. It's way better than anything that I used in Notion previously for this purpose. The one downside is that I do still need to use Notion for parts of my creative workflows, which means I do need to link to the Notion page for some of these collaborative projects. It's really not that big a deal though, because I keep different kinds of information on those pages in Notion anyway. So in my mind, Obsidian is for writing and now planning, and Notion is for going back and forth about the video. So for example, when I record the video, I take the text from the Obsidian note and I put it in the Teleprompter Pro app when I record. But in Notion, Max and I collaborate on title and thumbnail ideas, which often have multiple image attachments and comments, so the Notion page looks completely different. So that's how I built my master content calendar in Obsidian, but there are a few caveats here that you should be aware of if you're wanting to build something similar in your own vault. Now, as I showed you, this workflow requires not only the Obsidian Bases core plugin, but also the full calendar community plugin and the beta Obsidian Calendar Bases plugin. Now, beta plugins can be tricky, and as a general rule, the best workflows are the simplest ones. So if you can pull off what you want to do using core functionality only, you probably should. So the ideal scenario here would be if I could do this all out of the box using just Bases built-in views and features. What makes this tricky in this video is that if you wait a couple of months, you're probably going to be able to do that. The Obsidian team keeps a public roadmap that shows what features are planned and which ones they're actively working on. And less than 24 hours after I started building this, a calendar view for Bases was actually added to the plan section. I have no doubt this will be a better implementation when it's native, and hopefully will solve a few of the things that annoy me about this workflow right now. So for example, you can only use the monthly calendar view, and I'd love to have a weekly view as well as a longer quarterly or yearly view. The roadmap also shows that a Kanban view for Bases is also planned. So it's quite likely I will be rebuilding my entire content creation workflow with native Bases features at some point in the near future. So if you're not in a rush to cobble something like this together, you may just want to wait a little bit. But that being said, the foundation of this content calendar is simply note properties that are being filtered using Bases views. So even when I need to rework all these views, I don't believe what I've done so far is going to be in vain, as all of the underlying data is still going to be formatted correctly. My guess is that it'll be pretty straightforward and will likely just require updating the view layout options for each view instead of rebuilding them from scratch. The bottom line here though is this: Obsidian makes a killer master content calendar. And this is not exactly what I set out to build, but it's perfect for what I want. Even though my creative workflows currently rely on beta and community plugins, I absolutely love this. And I do think my creative workflows will get simpler once Bases adds those Kanban and calendar views that are currently on the roadmap. And it's quite possible that Bases becomes the only plugin that I need to manage my creative workflows in the future. Bases is incredible, but for now, I love having my content planning calendar inside my Obsidian vault, And I've actually added this to the latest version of Life HQ as well, which is my epic done for you Obsidian Vault with all my productivity and creativity workflows built in. It's a great way to jumpstart your Obsidian journey as all of the plugins are pre-installed and all of the settings are pre-configured. I also wrote over 60,000 words of documentation so you can tweak it and make it your own. You can find out more about Life HQ by going to the website lifehq.practicalpkm.com. And if you could use a little more help getting up and running with Obsidian, then check out my free Practical PKM Starter Vault. It contains some of my best Obsidian tips, all broken down by category, from basic PKM concepts to essential core features to time-saving keyboard hotkeys. There's also a collection of my own personal template files, a markdown cheat sheet, a couple of shortcuts I built, even a habit tracking dashboard canvas file along with instructions on how to set it all up. So if you could use a little help getting more out of your notes and ideas in Obsidian, you should definitely check this out. You can download it for free right now by going to vault.practicalpkm.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in another video.